Growing up with 3 siblings in the house has never been a picnic, and although that doesn't seem like a lot of people, it definitely causes a lot of problems. I remember for the longest time it was just me and my older brother in the house, and although we did enjoy our peace and quiet, we desperately wanted younger siblings. For me, I've always wanted a younger sister, and for him, he's always wanted a younger brother. I remember staying up every night with my mom and praying for a little sister, while my brother did the same with my dad. Instead, he wanted a little brother. I never had any desire to have a little brother, but when the opportunity came up, a lady at our church was looking for someone to adopt her grandkids, a boy and a girl, both twins, and we jumped at the opportunity. Although I didn't necessarily want a little brother, I'm internally grateful that we had the opportunity to adopt them. My relationship with my younger siblings has always been pretty good, and although we do have fights like all siblings have, we have maintained a very healthy relationship with each other. My relationship with my older brother, however, has never been a very good one. He has had problems that have left him very violent and aggressive. I remember growing up, he was my very best friend, and then the next minute he'd be someone who I feared. One minute he would get angry at me for stupid reasons, and the next he would be my best friend and yelling at a kid who took the first bite of cake at my birthday party. I loved and admired him, and to me, he was my one best friend. The times we did get along, however, they always ended up in fights, and peace was very rare and cherished among our entire family. When my younger siblings came, I no longer had just me to look out for. I had my younger siblings too, and this left me very protective over them. Middle school, going into high school, I promised myself that I would be the best sister I could be. And obviously, I can't do everything perfect, but I can try to do everything perfect. This leads into my capstone. I love my siblings so much, and I wanted to dedicate this year to spending time with them and improving my relationship with them. I believe being a good sibling is good in God's eyes because Philippians 2:3-4 says, "Do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others." It's hard to think of yourself when you're very young and very immature. And this year, I wanted to work on that. I wanted to work on my younger siblings, and I wanted to work on our relationship. And although I thought this entire year was going to be dedicated towards them, I had no idea of the healing that would go into my relationship with my older brother. At the beginning of this year, I was very nervous about capstone, as I did not know what I wanted to do profession-wise, and most capstones are based off profession. I was unsure of what I loved when it came to a career, and I was unsure of what I loved when it came to something worthy of an entire year. My mom had suggested pet therapy due to my love of pets. However, I was unsure. During our senior retreat, I had a lot of time to think about this. During my solo, I had a few journal prompts about what I love, and I wrote a lot about my siblings. The more I wrote, the more I realized that this is what I wanted to do this year, and that I wanted to spend more time with them before I went away to college. Not only did I write about that, but I reflected about my relationship with my older brother, and how it's affected not only my relationship with him, but my relationship with my entire family. At the end of middle school, my brother has said some very hurtful things to me that have stuck with me the rest of my life. I had admired him up until this point, and when he said those words to me, I immediately lost all respect for him. This left me wanting my younger siblings to feel loved and to feel wanted. I wanted to protect them. I wanted to focus my capstone around them. It's important to me because Proverbs 31:8-9 says, "Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously. Defend the rights of the poor and needy." Because my siblings are younger than me, my parents often overlook the things they have to say. It is my job as the older sister to give them a voice and to not tear down their ideas, even though some of them need a little work. This is what I love. I love being a sister, and I love Caleb and I love Olivia. and I wanted to show them how much I loved them this year. Before I started my journey into this capstone, I needed to learn more about family dynamics and birth order and how that relates to family. Most families are separated into oldest children, middle children, and youngest children. Although these stereotypes are accurate for a lot of kids, they are not accurate for everyone. This year I read a book by Dr. Kevin Lehman, The Birth Order Book, Why You Are the Way You Are. He separated it into these categories. For the oldest and the only children, they are leaders and perfectionists. They are the trial and error for the parents, which means that they often have more rules and often become more mature. They often get along with adults, and they can be the center of attention as there are no kids in the home for a certain period of time. They are also the leader within the home, and Dr. Kevin Lehman writes, "That's the way it is with firstborns. Mom and dad think they're in charge, but the firstborns know better, and so do the youngest sibling. For the second born, they are often cut more slack than the first child, and they have more leniency towards them. Although parents can be less attentive towards them due to other children being in the home. They tend to be a people pleaser due to their lack of attention, and they rely on peers rather than their family for emotional support." Dr. Kevin Lehman writes, "Middle children are the toughest to pin down because they play off their older siblings. The middle children also tend to be peacemakers. And I remember growing up, my dad would always call me the glue, meaning I always kept the family together. I always hated this because I never really felt like I did that, and now looking back on it, I desperately want to be the glue. I hate that still. Also, my dad would come to me for advice on how to connect with my younger siblings, as I seemed to be the one who could do it the best. For the youngest siblings, they tend to be free-spirited, as the parents have already gotten a hang of parenting and have lessened their rules. The youngest aren't the smartest or strongest, but they develop their own way to win people over. They can be very charismatic and outgoing. They can also think nothing they do is important due to their older siblings already have accomplished similar things they have, such as walking, reading, and talking. They also struggle with the comparison to their siblings. An example of this is Teddy Roosevelt's brother, Elliot Roosevelt. While Teddy Roosevelt was the 26th president of the United States, Elliot Roosevelt was an alcoholic and had a morphine addiction. This constant comparison to his brother drove him further into his addiction. The youngest can also be very manipulative. Dr. Kevin Lehman says, while lastborns are usually people persons, ironically, they struggle with self-centeredness. With all of these components, I decided that I was ready to spend a lot of time with my family, probably too much time. The time I spent with my family was dedicated to eating dinner every night, board games, and going to see a family therapist. Because of COVID-19, I had an opportunity to spend a lot more time than I bargained for with my family. And this experience has taught me patience and love. 1 Corinthians 13:4-5 says, "Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no records of wrong." In my family, we always keep a big list of everything wrong that another sibling has done. For example, my brother never lets me live down the fact that I make fun of his forehead. And I never let him live down the fact that he threw a plum at my face and made my nose bleed profusely. And looking at this verse of love keeps no records of wrong, I decided that it was time to let go of that. And although it was hard to forget, I worked on loving Caleb because I know he will do the same. For dinner and board games, our family dinners have never been a picnic. I already said picnic. Our family dinners have never been very good. It always consisted of yelling matches between my older brother and my father, mostly concerning me or another sibling. Most of the time, they escalated to a point where my brother got physical. It's been years now, and I can say that we have all matured at least a little bit. Arguments are still common at the dinner table, however, they hardly ever get physical. For our board games are also a very difficult activity for my family, as our excessive competitiveness often gets in the way of having a fun game. I'll be honest, most of the time it was my fault that they were miserable. I was not a good sportsman, and I often got upset when I lost, and in the process made the entire game not fun. Although I believe I have gotten better at sportsmanship, I'm still working on that. The last thing we did together as a family was therapy, and none of us wanted to go, but it was good for all the wrong reasons. None of us wanted to go, so we all decided to make fun of the therapist, and although we did bond, the execution was a little off. This year I wanted to get closer with my siblings, and I thought that was all that was going to happen this year. What I didn't know is that I would make progress with my older brother. The things he said have impacted my mental health, and I never thought I would be able to forgive him. However, this year, I have learned a lot about forgiveness and healing. Dr. Kevin Lehman says, because no one is perfect, we all desperately need forgiveness. By forgiving others, you allow them to be human, and in doing so, it makes you more aware of how human you really are. Think of all the people you've judged because of their behavior. Isn't it true that some of them behave in very similar ways to you? There isn't a person on the face of the earth who doesn't need grace. For the longest of time, I never allowed my brother to be human, and every mistake he made built up my resentment to him, and I was never able to forgive him because of this. Matthew 7:3 says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye, and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?" For the longest of time, I never realized how I was damaging the relationship, and I always thought it was all on him. However, this year I realized that I needed to be able to forgive him in order for our relationship to heal. And although that was a good outcome for this project, I couldn't be more proud of my younger siblings. They didn't want to do a lot of these activities with me because, like I said, it's not always the funnest of time. However, I'm incredibly thankful that they participated in this, as they are my best friends and I needed them throughout this entire journey. Although my love for my siblings didn't start at my solo, it definitely helped me realize what I wanted to do this year. I learned a lot about how family works and how my family works, and I believe that it is very good in God's eyes that I be a good sister. For the birth order, it helped even if it didn't apply to all aspects of my life. For me, I am a middle child, as I often get overlooked, and I am often the peacemaker. But I could also be categorized as the eldest, as my older brother is not very mature, although he is getting there. I also learned about the virtues of love and patience, and how I need to be a lot more patient with my younger siblings if I want a good relationship with them. Overall, I believe I have become a better person. Ecclesiastes 7:9 says, "Do not be quickly provoked in your spirit for anger." Ecclesiastes 7:9 says, "Do not be quickly provoked in your spirit for anger." Let me restart that again. I'm dumb. Ecclesiastes 7:9 says, "Do not be quickly provoked in your spirit, for anger resides in the lap of fools." I learned a lot about forgiveness this year, and I thought back to the story of Joseph and how his brothers had continuously hurt him, and although they had hurt him, he was able to forgive him. And I think of that with my own brother. This year was a time of healing and a time of love, and for the first time in a very long time, my brother has been able to say that he loves me back, and I could not be any more proud of that outcome. This year was a time of healing and a time of love, and I am so happy that I got to participate, and I'm so glad that I got to participate in this capstone.